right, season 2, episode 7. Our guest today is Rod Santomassimo. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse. I'm Logan Freeman with Midwest Commercial Real Estate Advisors. That's who sponsors the show. Today, we're joined by Rod Santomassimo, the world's top commercial real estate coach and founder of the Massimo Group. If you're in commercial real estate, specifically brokerage, but now investments as well, you've definitely heard of Rod. Real quick, everyone, we hold this podcast, and this is back-to-back episodes. We've had 3 live episodes this week, been very, very busy, but we host it for one reason. And it's because clarity beats noise, and there's really no shortage of headlines out there, opinions, or predictions about commercial real estate. And what I have found that is always missing is grounded market-specific insight from people actually doing the work, training the brokers, listing the properties, transacting on the real estate, leasing that real estate out, managing that real estate. And I'm super excited to talk with Rod. I was telling him right before we got started, we've had over 17 questions submitted to me to get to ask for Rob today. So we'll get through as much as we can, but that is a good point to make. If you are joining us here live on LinkedIn, please do drop any questions and comments. Let us know that you're here and you're watching this live. We are monitoring this live. My team has got it taken care of, and we're going to get to your questions for sure. If you are interested in Kansas City commercial real estate, here's our team. Myself, Katie Cobb, Nick Morales, Nathan Roberts, Mitch Case, Derek Schatzer, Chad Kagi, and Joe Newsy. You could be next. There's 2 little spots down there, and I am out there on the recruiting trail. So if you focus on multifamily investment sales, please do reach out to me. We have to be a culture fit, but would love to talk with you about commercial real estate brokerage. All right. Our guest, Rod Santomassimo, is the founder of the Massimo Group and the creator of several leading commercial real estate growth platforms. He has coached over 4,200 commercial real estate professionals worldwide to build high-performing brokerages and investment businesses. Some of my favorite books have been authored by Rod, and he is a 5-time best-selling author and a nationally recognized commercial real estate thought leader. He's also a syndicated columnist and frequent industry contributor. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Duke University School of Business that you went to, but you went to Duke. So rock on, man, the Blue Devils. But he's been honored multiple times for his impact on the commercial real estate industry. A lot of your proteges, a lot of your clients have been on the podcast previously. Probably most well-known, Bob Knackel is a 2-time guest here on the podcast. Alan Buchanan, Corey Zelnick, and more have all joined the podcast. So Rod, thanks for being here today. How are you?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me. I got to everything you just said. I'm most impressed with. You nailed my last name. You nailed it to a
Oh,
T.
yeah. I've said it so many times over the years. They're like, Logan, how you get your year set up? Well, I don't know. Go check out Rod Santomassimo's commercial real estate, year-end review, and let's get your year set up. How about, have you read Knowing Isn't Doing by Rod Santomassimo? Have you read Selling Billings by Rod Santomassimo? What are you doing today? I'm at Rod Santomassimo's virtual event all day long, right? So I've said it many, many times before.
And for the record, it's FUCA, the FUCA School of Business at Duke University.
Yeah, I wasn't going to try to do that one, but that's wonderful. Well, thank you for being here, Rod.
Known for their believe it or not, their lawnmowers. But anyway, Logan, thanks for having me. Great to be here. Let's get into it. How can I help?
Absolutely. So first question, we're going to just talk about what does an elite broker actually look like, right? So how do you personally define elite performance in commercial real estate?
Well, it looks like you have a really nice graphic up there. This is awesome. So I would agree with you. Look, I think the key word we look at that graphic, and for those who are just listening in, the average broker chase, you're seeing the elite broker creates, but one is a pursuit. Authority brokers, we think of commodity authority versus average elite, but the commodity broker always is chasing, unfortunately competes on fees, which you never want to do, right? Where the authority elite broker, they'll be pursued, or they will pursue and they'll control, and more so they can command higher fees. I think that's an amazing difference right there.
Yeah, that is a good difference. Now, you have often talked about the difference between the transaction broker and the advisor, right? And one thing that I have actually coached my team on quite a bit is I love your emails, right? I get your emails and I read them. Fantastic information in there. But one of them reminded me, it said broker A is transaction focused. Broker B is an advisor. Will you just dive into that for everybody just here? Because I took that to heart and really, really have focused on trying to advise clients instead of just focus on transactions. But what does that mean for you?
Well, transaction, we talk about the transaction treadmill. And if you're always living on the treadmill, you're actually never working on your business and you're growing nowhere is a fact. Transaction-oriented brokers are focused on the commission, not the relationship, not the result of their client. The result of the client is secondary to their commission. It just doesn't work. It doesn't. Versus a relationship-based broker, one that's focusing on the advisory role, recognizes, and your last guest, Bob Knackle, one of our, I think our longest tenured client, he just cares about what's the best solution for my client. Even if that means, and Bob will do this quite often, look, here's the best option. Don't sell your building. Let's wait and hold for these things to happen, right? Bob doesn't care about the commission. He cares about the result for the client. So that's a great way to differentiate between the two.
Yeah, I actually just told the client last week. I said, look, you're not ready to sell, right? I mean, your average rents are around $1,000, but you've got stuff at $1,350 and you've got stuff at $900, right? And if you need your price, we need to go prove out the rest of those rents on the rest of those buildings. I said, well, how long is it going to take? Probably 3 to 4 months. Okay, well, let's revisit it then. And guess what happened, Rod? Whenever I started advising, they said, oh, by the way, we have this other property that we would like for you to look at as well. Funny how that works, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's a mind shift, but it's a positioning issue. But yeah, Logan, you're doing it correctly.
Yeah, well, I learned from you the number one question you always ask, right? And I think it was maybe long-haired coach on your team. I can't remember his name. The guy's got the nice long ponytail.
Doug Molyneux.
Doug. All right, so Doug, I think said, hey, this is the one thing you always have to ask when you're prospecting. What else do you have? What else do you have? What else do you have? Right? I can't tell you how much new business has come from what else do you have? What else are you working on? Right? Like just moving them off of what they're fixated on and actually getting to an actual problem that they are having on their portfolio that they're not really talking about with you on this one specific deal. Right? And so I think that understanding what's getting the most attention for property owners is one of the skills that I have tried to continue to develop, is asking those deeper questions. But you've coached thousands of brokers across cycles. And I have to ask now, right? What's the biggest strategic mistake that you see brokers making right now?
In today's market?
In today's market.
Well, that's a loaded question, Logan, because a broker in Australia is dealing with something different than a broker in New York versus a broker in Lubbock, Texas. So
sure.
I can't tell you that the brokerage community is dealing with this issue. That's just not the case. Every single market has a different challenge and different issues that we have to adjust with our brokers.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. You know, and I also have asked Bob this question quite a bit. It's like, would you take the same canvassing approach in a city that is the same size as Manhattan, but has 550,000 people in it, right? Like and he's like, well, you know, I mean, kind of, right? But like this residential canvassing approach, we can still take, but we have to break it down by submarket to submarket. I mean, where I live, all the way up to the airport is a 47-minute drive, 47 miles, right? We don't have traffic here in Kansas City. But at the same time, the demand drivers that are up there in the Northland versus what I'm experiencing down in South Kansas City and across state lines are very, very different. But I can look at those submarkets and start canvassing those as well. We do have our first question in that I want to get to real quick. So, you know, a lot of brokers are messaging me saying, hey, it's been tough times out there. And I understand that. But when I see your emails come out about the amount of exclusives that you guys are working on and your clients, the amount of deals that are being closed from your clients, I have to kind of push back on this. Like, sure, real estate's always tough. Brokerage is always tough, right? But like, what separates brokers in your mind who survive tough markets from those who expand the market share during that? That's a great question that somebody sent me in.
Well, what you read to me, what's the last bullet point under elite broker in your graphic?
Runs a system.
That's the answer right there.
Running the system. I love
the system. You
Yeah.
have to have a system. And I love the word rhythms, right? You have to have the rhythms to go along with how you're prospecting, how you're following up the marketing, everything you have on your slide deck there. Look, you have to have systems and processes in place can keep a consistent pipeline, consistent cash flow. When I hear things are really hard, well, that tells me you didn't do the work 6 months ago. That's all it tells me. You didn't do the work 6 months ago to make today hard. That's all it was. You're focused on a transaction. You're focused on being busy. You didn't do the work. And people say, Rod, that's rough. That's tough. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Rod, was it your book, Knowing Isn't Doing, which really is a phenomenal business book in general? If you're in business, go read the book. Sure, it had commercial real estate, but it was really for entrepreneurs.
Actually, I'm going to correct you if I may there. Knowing and Doing is the only non-commercial real estate book I've ever written.
There we go.
It is. Well, and it's also the only book I've ever written that became #1 sales book in the country. So
well, it is one of my favorite books. I go back to it all of the time. I actually wrote a book report on Knowing Isn't Doing. And one of them is, you say, don't kid yourself, right? Like that's the whole component of that. Very clever, my friend. You even wrote that without AI. So that is
I did.
book by Rod Santomassimo right there. And all these other books coming out that are just AI written now. Anyways, long story short, I remember it going into buckets, and you have to spend your time wisely, because that is the only resource that we have as real estate and entrepreneurs is our time. And it really opened up my eyes in regards to what are the most profit producing activities, right, that I need to be doing. How do I eliminate, delegate, or, I think it's, eliminate, automate, or delegate everything else, right?
Correct.
And so I have a lot of young brokers that are reaching out to me. Logan, I'd love to get into business, seeing what you're doing. Look, I've been doing it since 2017, so not even 10 years yet. I figured some things out. But I will tell you that if you ask me what my #1 profit producing activity is, it's very hard for me to put my thumb on that. Almost 10 years into this business, right? And that's difficult. So it's just like you mentioned, you can't really say, hey, real estate broker in Australia versus New York City, this is the challenges they're going through. I think each person has their own skill sets. I really struggle with delegating because I'm a control freak. Yeah. Right? So that is something that I'm focused on, right? But understanding after you put a time or a value on your time, the things that I can eliminate, automate, or delegate was just an eye-opening experience for me. And so I created these kind of KPIs for myself, and I defined what meaningful conversations are. If you are actively looking to buy, sell, or invest or lease a commercial real estate property in Kansas City, so the market that I operate in the next 90 days, I'm trying to have 4 to 5 of those meaningful conversations per day, right? That's kind of my leading indicator that then drives what I call revenue generating meetings. So follow-ups from those. I want to have 3 of those per day. And that's driving 10 proposals per month, which creates the pipeline that we need to be a top 10 brokerage in Kansas City. Tell me, what am I missing in that, Rod?
Well, I love what you just said, because I hope people listen clearly, because it's funny. I just wrote a blog about this. It hasn't been published yet. I wrote it this morning. This is so weird. So it's about KPIs and people with this focus on how many dials did I make today? How many meetings did I schedule? And while I get it, you just said what you said is correct, Logan. I don't care how many dials you make. I care how many conversations you have. Yeah. I don't care how many meetings you schedule. I care how many meetings you have. Now, they're both lag measure, lead measures. Great book, by the way. 4 Disciplines of Execution by McKenzie and Covey goes through this in great detail of lead measure, lag measure. But what you're saying is absolutely correct. You got to have the conversations, and you better know your numbers. You better know that for every X conversations, I have Y meetings. Because if you don't know that number, that's a conversion number. Then from there, we can tell you, if you're not hitting at least 20%, 25% conversation to meeting, your value prop is off. It just is. If you're not having at least, well, some markets will vary depending on where you are, but from a meeting to exclusive conversion, in most markets, you look for a baseline of 20%. If you're not getting that, then your pitch, your presentation is not working. And you got to figure it out quick. So,
Absolutely.
and so Logan, obviously you track your numbers, right? But most brokers, we know for a fact, most brokers do not track their numbers. They wing it, and they can't figure out why their business is just flopping and just not going forward.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that Bob Knackel really schooled me on was market tracking. And this was like 2 years ago.
Right.
And, he recently put out a post on LinkedIn and talked about this multifamily broker from Kansas City that called him. And he asked him some very, straight up questions. How many buildings are in your market? How
I
many
don't know.
Right? I love that. Right. And if you ask and I took this to heart. And so I started tracking from the Kansas City Business Journal list that was reported sales, for the last 5 to 6 years. Now I have market reports because I got asked for the first time this past week from a fund out of, I think they were out of Minnesota. They said, well, how much real estate volume happens in Kansas City on a yearly basis? And I just started smiling, right? I'm like, well, what year are you asking about? Because let me tell you about this story from all the way from 2018 to 2025. Right. And I could just see on that meeting, it was a virtual meeting like this, that the local star power went from who am I talking to, oh my gosh, I just dropped my phone and I'm listening to what this guy has to say. So that was extremely important for me as well. And I've taken it one step further to try to understand 2020 to 2025 transaction volumes from a national standpoint, right? I mean, last year was huge. It blew everybody's expectations out of the water with $545 billion of commercial real estate transactions done nationally. That's incredible, right? I mean, nobody had that expectation. And so it was just these ideas that market tracking starts to create inferences that you can actually advise your clients on. How about that? That's a novel idea. But I think that 90% of people in commercial real estate haven't the slightest clue. I mean, Rod, I called somebody. I had made an offer for my client on some land, and I called him, and I hope he's not listening. And it was 9:30. He said, well, I haven't opened my email yet. And when I was calling him, he said, what building are you calling about? I said, I'm not calling about a building. I have called, left a voicemail, sent you a text message, and sent you a contract on land, right? I mean, so the barrier is not that high to be able to be a top producer. Anything that you want to react to that right there?
Well, no, again, I applaud you because what you just shared was you reflected your authority in the marketplace as a resource to in this case, a fund manager, right? If you cannot articulate with specificity what's going on in your marketplace, just understand this. You are a commodity. You are not special. You're just average. That's just a fact. And if those listening, be clear here. These are the 3 things you must know. If you don't know these 3 things, you're just going to compete on fee, and that's a terrible place to be. So we share with every broker. So every broker, and Logan, I would hope you know these numbers. We'll see if it's true or not. Number 1, do you know how many deals you've consummated in your career?
I do.
Okay. Bob Knackel, 2,391 as of last week, right? Do you know the total square footage of all the deals that you've consummated, right? Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
The answer is no.
No. Bob Knackel, 23,348,500 and something thousand, right? We know, we track it. Do you know the total dollar value? That was total dollar value. Excuse me, that was his number. Total dollar value of all the deals. So, but these 3 things, deals you've consummated, total dollar value, lease value of all those deals, and total size. When you can articulate just that, even without before going in the marketplace, you say, look, during my history, I've closed 456 deals and value of $3,566,545 versus, I've closed about 200 deals and we've closed, close to 20 million of value. You're a commodity broker.
Yeah.
You just are. Specificity will always keep you, and Logan just demonstrated to the fund manager, right, will keep you on par as far as being above and beyond everybody else, and you're now the resource. And that fund manager, Logan, is next time he has a need or she has a need, they're going to call you. They are.
That's exactly right. Yes, I think I remember you putting this out there as being the refrigerator magnet. right? If it might have been something that I just kind of transposed that onto you, but I thought that you had said, hey, if you want to be not a commodity as a real estate broker, when somebody thinks about buying, selling, investing, leasing in commercial real estate, do they go to the refrigerator and see your magnet, right? In their mind,
In
right?
their
Or
mind.
along those lines, right? Like that was really important to me. Now, Carlos, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming here live. I'm glad you asked this question because it was one I was going to ask Rod anyways, was how AI, artificial intelligence, will benefit or affect brokers. And I think we have a leading authority here because you were one of the first movers here on building this into your training and actual systems that you've created.
Yeah, and Carlos, great to have you here. Thank you, and great question. As far as effect of a massive effect on brokerage, it can be argued right now in the United States there are approximately 91,000 commercial real estate brokers. That number will go up and down based on market swings and everything else. During the pandemic, that went way down.
Yeah.
2008, that went further down. But right now, say 91,000 commercial. I never include residential brokers in our stats. We don't work with residentials. We work with commercial brokers. So I see that number within 3 years going down as much as 20%.
Wow.
I truly do. Because commodity brokers will be replaced with information bots. That's just what's going to happen. And those brokers who are authorities that can leverage those bots will take more market share. So that's the effect. The benefit is today, Logan's working on a great piece of software. We have a piece of software as well. Today, you can accelerate and automate so many things in your practice. I was with a gentleman in New York last week, and I asked him, why is he still asking for 12-month exclusives? And he said, well, I got to do this and do this and do this. And isn't that all manual? Well, yeah, not anymore. It's not. We can create text bots and call bots and automations using AI to do most of those processes that took you weeks and months. Ask for a 12-month exclusive. We have clients right now, Carlos, they're asking for 30-day exclusives. And here's what happens. Number one, they're getting the exclusives because anyone's going to say 30 days. Shit, I'll give you 30 days. Go ahead. Yeah. Right? But secondly, if you ask for 30 days, guess what happens? You can command higher fees because time is money. Mm. So instead, and I'm making these numbers up. So instead of asking for 4%, you ask for 6% because it's only 30 days and you're getting a faster result. So that's how I see it affecting and benefiting brokers. Higher fees initially, then the whole market will then become normal to this. Higher fees initially, faster processing initially, and it will wean out at least 20% of the brokerage community.
Wow. Yeah, really good points there. I will just add, Carlos, that I don't know if the Pareto principle reigns true in commercial real estate brokerage. I'm sure Rod tracks us much closer than
it does. It does.
20% of the practitioners are doing 80% of the business. I have a feeling that artificial intelligence makes that number fractal. So it just goes, maybe the top 10% are doing 90% or of the business, right? So the ones
but Logan, if I might interrupt, sorry. They're not doing 80% of the business. They're not doing 8% or 9% of the business. What they're doing is they're doing 8% of the commission dollars, which is a big difference. I don't need to do more deals. I'm doing bigger deals and higher fees.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, really good point. I remember during COVID, I mean, we had built a online system because during COVID, listings dropped in a big ways with 1031 exchanges, and that's what I was focused on. So I went and I built this online portal that had off-market multifamily deals, right? And at some point during 2020, I think it was, I had more listings on my platform than LoopNet did. And so I commanded presence by, hey, if you're not gone through this buyer's representation success system, you're not going to get access to the deals. And Rod, we transacted $47 million of multifamily transactions off of our own off-market database that you had to go through a sales process and be vetted to get access to. How cool is that, right?
Very cool.
Very interesting. Now, lots of questions around mindset. Okay. A lot of these questions came in around mindset, but I think I want to ask this one. Where do newer brokers usually sabotage themselves mentally? Right. Because I've got a lot of thoughts on it. I'm just going to leave that question out to you first.
Yeah. The first one is fear, 100%. We're talking specifically about new to business brokers. it's fear, and that fear kills them. And that's why most new business brokers don't make it to the second year. They don't. Very few make it to the third year. So I say fear is the number one thing, and they blame their lack of progress on the market, which is horrible, right? Or they blame it on their broker. That's where I say, if you say there's one mindset that holds a new to business broker back, that would be it.
Yeah. And whenever I get to interview guys that have been in the industry for 40 years or so, they always mention discipline, right? And I mean, I think that's one of Bob's number one focuses is discipline, right? And I think that this word maybe gets a bad rap out there. You know, I'm a thoroughbred Jocko Willink fan. I went, you know, when he was in Bentonville, Arkansas, I drove down to Bentonville, worked out with him at 4 a.m., like shook his hand. He's on the background of my computer. Like, I got his book right here, Extreme Ownership. I got his workbook, all of it. So like ownership and discipline, super important to me. Now that is probably my athletic background and the way that I was raised, right? But this idea that if you can keep these promises that you make to yourself, not only does your discipline grow, your confidence grows. And so I try to always say the mindset of things is also around confidence, right? You have to have this belief that you can do something. And even if you fail, right? Like you still have to be able to come back and bounce back. And I have been following and studying Alex Hormozi at lengths recently. Okay?
I love Hormozi.
He's incredible. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. But one thing I do want to say about that he wrote recently was you have to be comfortable in the lag. When you start behaving like a winner, it takes the world 6 to 9 months, maybe longer, to catch up to show you those results. And so are you comfortable living in that lag period of time between when you've decided that you're going to do the behaviors that a winner does? Tim Grover's also a huge mentor of mine, versus I need a positive feedback loop today to tell me what I'm doing is right, because this industry will not tell you that, right? And that you have to be comfortable living in that lag, right? I think that's the elite broker's mindset.
Yeah, man, it's amazing how much we're thinking alike. We just built a new with the AI on our coaching platform. We're building a new, what we call it, the value equation calculation.
Good.
Exactly that. The efforts that you're making now and the progress, either the calls, the meetings, the moving deals forward, that all, believe it or not, can be calculated to progress. It can be. And that progress is going to take 6 to 9 months. It is. But if you know every day that you're making progress based on certain metrics, then that gives you the confidence to keep on and the consistency to keep on doing those things. So wholeheartedly agree.
Yes. You dream outcome, perceive likelihood of success, right? Those are the top of the value equation that Hormozi talks about. The bottom is reduce the cost and the time to actually get that result, right? And so I have what I call my offer out there for listing properties, and it's a spotlight strategy, and it's a two-phased approach. Number one, through digital marketing and social media, I know for a fact now that I can get 100,000 plus targeted impressions on a new listing in 7 days or less. And I will show you that I can do that. What does that mean for you? Well, now I've got 7 to 9 case studies that shows out of those impressions and views, it drives about 150 to 200 leads. Then phase 2 shows up, which is the relentless follow-up, right? We're going to call and contact every single person that has expressed interest. And we're going to make outbound calls with, nearby property owners, our own database. And we're going to make sure that those people are followed up with until we get a no and a why. And based off of that, I'm giving you 7 to 9 case studies that have been done the last 3 to 4 months that you can review those impressions and leads and contracts and things that we've got. Now, I need one thing from you. I need realistic expectation on pricing and the process, and be patient with the process, right? So that's
Logan, let me ask you a question, because that was phenomenal for those who want to invest and work and sell their assets in Kansas City and work with you. But how many of those folks you work with are institutional versus private owner?
No institutional owners here.
Okay, so here's a little coaching for you, okay? And for everyone. No one wants to read a case study. Case studies are academic. The whole idea of case studies is 1980. It just is. It's a foregone. What we found, and working so much better, it's just a reframing. It's all it is. Instead of saying case study, say success story.
Mm.
People want to go and watch a success story. How did that other tenant do this? How did that other apartment owner do that? Right? Success stories resonate with prospects. So I love what you're doing, and I think what you're doing is different than everybody else, and that's why you're so successful. Just make that one change, and you'll see you'll have more success.
I am writing a note right now for my team to go remove case studies from our website and replace it with success stories.
And even clients' success stories. It's not your success story; it's the client's success story.
Love that.
Not easy to say.
Yeah.
So
that's fantastic. I really appreciate that. Now, we're going to move on to not just cold calls, because this is one thing that I think does keep a lot of people out of this industry, is picking up this phone. And I hear all of the excuses now, right? Like Apple just came out with this new thing that, screens the calls and all this stuff.
Yeah. You heard that too, huh?
I've heard that many times, Rod. And I say, look, and I get it. Like, I have a different level of expertise, and Kansas City's not that big of a market. I'm one or two people removed from almost anybody. But when I call, text, or email, I get responses almost 50 to 60% of the time. So it's my call to contact ratio is very high. Now, I also do extreme research and try to add value before I'm calling, and they've been hopefully targeted through any type of social media on LinkedIn, whatever. But like, at the end of the day, I'm on the phone a lot. Probably 80% of my time is doing content, doing virtual meetings like this, doing in-person meetings, or I'm on the phone. And my team is like, good golly, how do you keep all the things straight? And I say, look, I was taught during, get this, during my master's program, when I was cut from the NFL, I would drive an hour to work during the day, and I go to master's classes at night. And you know what I did? I made 265 cold calls per day on an analog phone that I actually had to type in all the notes to a CRM, and they had to be verified, voicemails, everything that was left. And so for 6 months, that's what I did. And that built this muscle of, they're not necessarily saying no to me personally. They're saying no to the offer that I made them, right? And so I think that this muscle of being able to contact people, the discipline around it, is still extremely important. But I have to ask, because you do a lot of coaching on this, what do top brokers do differently when they're talking to owners, and how do they approach cold calls?
Well, I may get the slide correct. So you just get the question right. You asked about the specific call itself, or how you put the actual prospecting effort in a campaign versus a dialing for dollars. I just want to get that one right.
Probably. Let's start with the latter part first.
Okay. So yeah, all campaigns. By the way, this is a fact. We track every source of every deal of all our clients. So the phone call remains the number one source of income for now our 17th year in a row for our broker clients. So if you're a broker out there saying, I rely on referrals, there's so many problems with that. I rely on referrals. I got this. I don't need to call anybody. You're losing out on so much money. It's ridiculous. You just are. By the way, the second source of income, and this is far and beyond the third source, is what we call the inactive. You may be calling them past clients, which you should never do. But your inactive clients will always be your second source of income. That's will be. And after that, it drops off to referrals, and way down the line comes social media. It just does. So you got to pick up the damn phone. There's no other way around it. If you want to control, back to your first slide, Logan, if you want to control your income and your destiny, you got to pick up the damn phone. Now, top producers, again, they're not calling to get a deal. They're not necessarily calling to get a meeting. The purpose of my call today is to get a meeting because of this. That works. It works. But they're calling to share information, to inform, to make that person, put them in a position to make a more educated decision. And by the way, that should be your role as a salesperson as well. My role is not to sell you anything. It is to put you in position to make a more informed decision. That decision probably be working with me. It would be, right? That's what we want. But if you can do that, and that's what top producers do, back to your question, then you're going to be better off overall. Everyone's going to be better off overall. Everyone wins. That's how it works.
I'm writing as fast as I can because Rod's giving us an absolute masterclass right now. I I am calling to help you position yourself to make a more informed decision. I'm going to use that. I absolutely love that. That is fantastic. 100%. Okay. Well, I hear too, and we've got a question here from a real estate broker. I'll just ask it. How should brokers think about prospecting so it doesn't feel like a grind?
Okay. Well, here's how. If you're a commodity broker, it's gonna feel like a grind. Logan and I just discussed that. It is. If you're an elite authority broker, guess what? It's your duty. It's your responsibility to share information with other folks to help them a gain or a pain, which one you're addressing, is to help them in their situation. It is your responsibility. You're a fiduciary. I have to call this person. They need to know this. And that's, by the way, that's brokerage. That is. So, and as Logan said earlier, they're not saying no to you. They aren't. They're saying no to the current offer at this point in time, right? Even Logan and I know this because we've dialed so much in our careers. When they tell you, screw off, never call me again, Logan, will you call them again?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No question.
I may not call you right back, but you can guarantee that in a month or a quarter, I'm calling you again, right? So you got to understand this is the aspect of brokerage. You got to be comfortable on the phone. And I say this to people, I know I'm getting old and crunchy in my later years. If you're not comfortable making calls, you better find that comfort level, or you should find something else to do. It's just what it is. Or play a different role. Don't be a prospector. Don't be a finder or originator. Be a facilitator. Be in the fulfillment side, right? Be on that side, and you still be in brokerage.
Yeah, absolutely. A follow up to that is, early in my career, I really did focus on trying to understand what my intangibles were, my God-given talents, right? And I took strength finders and the Colby assessment and all of them, right? And my favorite probably now is Ray Dalio's Principles U, mostly because it's just free and you can go do it. And, if that guy put it out there, it's been studied, and I think he worked with Adam Grant to create it. I
love Adam Grant. I love Adam Grant.
Yeah. Him and Ray Dalio got together and put this principlesu.com thing together. It's fantastic. Thank you, Ray Dalio. Come on the podcast anytime, my friend. I will vote for you if you ever decide to run for president. Oh, did I say that? Sorry. Anyways, long story short, he's not going to because he's having a lot more impact outside of that. But Holy cow, it'd be awesome if he did. Anyways, my question, or the question that came in was, okay, so here, let me get back up to it. Here's a good one here. Okay. What activities are actually driving production today, and which ones feel productive but don't move the needle? And Rod, before you answer that, I'm going to give my 2 cents, right? And I think this depends on where you're at in your career. Because for me, I have this idea that if I can, and I'm proving this out, if I can put out 10x more commercial real estate content focused on Kansas City, that is going to drive not only inbound leads, but it's going to warm leads up that I'm trying to talk with. And in January alone, we had over 500,000 impressions on our content. We were up 92% on LinkedIn and over 1,000% on YouTube. And that generated 37 inbound leads, and it generated over 5 offers on one of our listings. So I think what I'm doing is important for the business as I'm growing the business and leading a team. That could be different for a true sole producer, right? But I just wanted to mention that before we kind of have you answer what activities are actually driving production today. How would you approach that?
Well, first of all, I got to ask that question. How many impressions do you say a month or a year?
That's monthly, 500,000 plus on LinkedIn monthly right now. Yep.
Logan, that is tremendous.
Yes, Rod, this episode will be watched for 7 hours, 24 hours after this is done, just on LinkedIn alone.
Yeah, look, we obviously we're a little different because we're national, but we get a little more than that, but not a lot more. But that's incredible stats. That is, and by the way, listen to what he just said. He knows the impressions per month he's getting out of social media. I mean, you got to know this stuff because that's your marketing department. Back to the original question. It depends on where you are in your career to what you should focus on. I'm going to assume, and this is terrible, I'm going to assume you're not quite making over $500,000. Okay, because Logan, do you know what the average commercial real estate broker makes? Do you know what it is?
Oh man, I'd say probably 75,000.
Net, it's about 75,000.
Okay.
Overall, it's about 132,000 gross. Okay.
Yeah.
So most brokers, again, this is what it is, are making less than $500,000. This is what it is. And if that's the case, that this is what you got to do. We call it the P factor. We preach this. And if you're listening, just do a simple equation. I know the math doesn't work. The Duke MBA doesn't work here. Don't worry about it. But it is P plus P plus P equals P cubed. That's what you got to focus on. P plus P plus P equals P cubed. And those variables is what I should focus on. First, figure out your value proposition. And that simply means, who do I serve? How do I serve them? If you can't articulate that, that's the first P. If you can't articulate that or figure that out, stop. Because everything else becomes just a generalist and there's no value. So who do I serve? How do I serve them? First P, value prop. Then you add to that, as Logan just announced, your presence. What are you doing from presence? Not only digitally like Logan, but physically and personally, what are you doing to create a presence in your marketplace? Logan's doing a great job in creating a top tier, top of mind presence in his marketplace. Yes, we heard some of the digital things, but I can guarantee you, Logan's also, you're doing personal and physical pieces as well.
That's right.
Okay. So, and last, the third P is your prospecting, right? And it's a campaign, emails, DMs, videos, AI text, AI bots. I'm sorry, they're here now. Calls, right? Inactive client campaigns. Those all go in your prospecting. Now, why prospecting after presence? Logan, why do I put prospecting after presence? Do you know?
I can take a guess. My guess is going to be, it's going to make your prospecting easier.
Thank you. It's that simple. You don't want to prospecting without presence is like, hey, Logan, how many times have you heard? You probably haven't heard. In the last year, have you heard, who the hell are you?
Not one time.
Not one time. He's got amazing presence. And that's what makes prospecting, for an earlier question, you want to make prospecting easier? Create a presence. It makes it so much easier. It does.
Absolutely. Yes.
I mean, I get a kick when someone says, I haven't never heard of Massimo. I'm like, oh, thank God. That means there's more opportunity out there. So
absolutely. Yes. Right? Yes. 100%.
So, by the way, the P cubed. So I got value prop, I got presence, I got prospecting in that order. The P cubed is you'll get more pitches, more presentations, and yes, massively more production in what you do. Now, with that said, let's say you're making more than $500,000. Same equation, different variables, and this exact order, it's got to be this order again. Now you have an integrated platform, you have defined processes, and then only after those two things, do you bring on talented people. And if you do that, again, integrated platform, AI, CRM, research, HubSpot, all those things you kids are using, right? Then the processes, define processes. This is how we do things, right? At Midwest CRE Advisors. This is how we do things. So everyone knows there's no misunderstanding. And then and only then are you allowed to bring on talented people. So you don't have to interrupt every 5 minutes on what to do. And once you do that, the PQ there, we just call it massive margin. You're making massive dollars. You're making high 6, 7, even 8 figures, which is, you can say, no way. Yes, brokers do make 8 figures. They do, right? You're making massive money. You're working less. And because you have all that behind you, those are the things you should focus on.
That's a great answer. And I will just do a plug here again for Knowing Isn't Doing, because I actually took the worksheets out of the book onto a spreadsheet, and I can still remember going through the ICP worksheet that you have created. Not only that, then going to the value proposition. It's all in the book. Like, just go pick it out. I mean, and I'm sure you have worksheets and a landing page with all of that, but I literally typed all of that information into a spreadsheet that I use on a regular basis just to kind of refine my value proposition, going through my ideal customer profile as we continue to grow. So another not shameless plug of, Knowing Isn't Doing. Please do go.
Thank you, Logan.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, let's keep this going, because we're coming up on time here, and I've got one segment that I have to absolutely get to. But have you seen any type of shift in the strategy that elite brokers are utilizing in what they call slower markets, right? And like 2023, 2024, from a transaction volume standpoint, were slower markets, right? So are people adjusting their strategy, or are they just sticking to what they know works?
Well, first of all, I'm going to laugh at slower markets. I mean, I know everyone just came away from the National Multi-Housing. Did you happen to go? Did you go, Logan?
I wasn't there. No.
I heard it was a phenomenal show. Everyone's talking about how much better 2026 is going to be. And I'm laughing my ass off thinking, do you remember 1995? They probably don't. Do you remember 2000? They probably don't. Do you remember 2008? They probably should. Do you remember 2020? Oh, they probably should, right? Those markets were slow. Those were slow.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 years have not been slow. They haven't been. So brokers have this always me, always the market, just mindset that holds them back. Commodity brokers have that mindset. They do. Authority brokers, it is what it is. What do I need to do? So back to your point, what do I need to do to get in front of the folks to get them the information they need to make more educated decisions? That has been the consistent thread throughout. What do I need to do to get these folks in position to make more educated decisions? That's what they do. And they have those advisory conversations. Some lead to deals, some don't. We have less commission years those years? You might. We have clients that have their best years ever the last 2 years. So it's not a market thing. It's a systems thing.
Love that answer. I couldn't agree more. Okay. So
there you go. Build systems.
Yeah, there we go. Build system, right? Yeah, 100%. If someone watching, what does one thing starting differently, right? Doing something differently tomorrow. What would you advise them to do? Right? Like, I mean, obviously that's hard. That's a hard question because you don't know what they're doing currently.
Yeah.
Like, Rod, what I'm doing isn't working. I can't figure this out, or I'm having trouble figuring this out. I'm beating my head up against the wall. What do I do different?
Okay. The first thing for the 5 on this slide, if those are watching this, the 5 points on the slide are absolutely all killer steps to take. They are. Each one of them is a significant step to take. But I would tell you the first thing I would ask you is, and I do, is let me see your calendar. That's all. Let me see your calendar. Where are you allocating your time, right? You have time, you have people, and you have money, capital to allocate. That's what you have. So 3 resources you have: time, people, capital. Tell me how you're using those 3 variables. And more times than not, I just see total waste of time.
Yes.
I do, right? They may be busy, but they're not doing anything productive, right? They're making excuses. So Rod, I'm stuck. Everyone's stuck somewhere different. I mean, look, I know we mentioned him a couple of times now, and he's been on your show. And Bob Knakal is the GOAT of commercial real estate brokerage in the United States, if not the world. He is. So when I first met Bob and he was making $6 million, and Logan, this was now 13 years ago. I mean, I talked to my wife and I said, "What the hell am I going to do for Bob Knakal?" he's freaking Bob Knakal. I mean, I didn't know him. I didn't even know he was Bob Knakal at the time. I didn't know that, right?
Sure.
But I went up and I sat in the corner of his office for 2 days, only because it was Bob. I would never do this again. But and plus I was starting out.
Sure.
I sat in a chair by his cubicle and just watched and did nothing but just watch and take notes. And I said, this guy, he's got to be doing everything right. And the point was, he wasn't. He was doing certain things not at full capacity, and certain things he wasn't even doing. And so at the end of the 2 days, I said, "Bob, I think I could help with this, this, and this." And he said, "Oh shit, let's try it." And so we doubled his income in a year and a half, and we tripled his income. We went from 16 to 18 plus million in 3.5 years. And there's been good years and bad years and changes in brokerage. And he sold his company for $100 million, and all this good stuff has happened and other stuff, and the pandemic. But my lesson was, to your question, everyone, regardless of your level of success, experience, everyone has something they need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Just what it is. And Bob and I have met every week for 13 years, every week. So, and he's the only coach. I have 38 coaches now. He's the only client that I coach. And so everyone can get better. And what Bob has that most authorities have, he has unlimited curiosity to go with his discipline. He's always asking that key question: what's next?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely. There's no ceiling on growth. It just isn't.
Right. Yeah. Incredible response. My favorite segment of our show is the quick take. So Rod, there's very few people that I know that read and ingest and digest more information than you. So it's probably going to be pretty difficult for you to answer one favorite book or podcast. But what's got your attention right now?
Oh, my podcast is probably the same podcast you listen to. It's The Game by Alex Hormozi. That is my favorite podcast. And then I should know Adam Grant's. He just changed the name of his podcast, but Adam Grant is a great one as well. But yeah, love that. Love it.
Couldn't agree more. I just finished up his 7.5-hour podcast, Alex Hormozi's How to Make 2026 Your Best Year Ever.
Yep.
And I have a whole sheet in my Remarkable from just things that I took away. And here's the crazy part, guys, is when Rod says everybody has continual growth, like that guy's the same age as me. And he has 35, 40 million followers. When I say that I have 36,000 followers, people are like, oh, wow, you're doing really well. You know, I'm like, you don't have any clue, right? Like I've not even scratched the surface.
Logan, quick chance of story. Yesterday, I have an associate who's a New York Times bestselling author. And I asked this person, I won't give the gender out for any reason. I asked this person, do you think about Alex Hormozi's book launch? And the person said, who's Alex Hormozi? I started laughing. So wait a minute. Who's the person that wrote the 4th fastest selling book in the history of the world, who made $160 million in 3 days in book sales? You don't know who that is? And this person said, I have no idea you're talking about. And said, well, that's the scale. This New York Times bestselling author had no idea. I mean, and this person's eyes dropped out of their head when I said that he sold, was it 3 million, almost 3 million books in those 3 days?
Yeah.
Just dropped. And was like, that's impossible. Nope. That's what this guy is. That's who he is.
That's a Guinness World Record. That's what that is. Yep. 100%. Okay. Moving on. One habit that every elite broker must do daily.
Make your damn calls. Very simple. Make your damn calls every single day.
Every single day. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Biggest mistake that you're seeing brokers make early in their careers.
They think they're an employee or a broker versus realizing they actually own a company and they should run a business, not a practice of brokerage. Huge difference.
Yeah, there is a huge difference on that front. Something that I'm getting well versed on in school right now. Okay, so if you were starting in commercial real estate today, what would you focus on first, Rod?
Well, I would focus on building my database and getting on the phone. That's all. I build a database, get on the phone. The only way you're going to have more conversations is, more businesses. I have conversations. I actually spoke to someone yesterday who, the very first call he ever made, they said to him, I want to sell my building. And he looked around the bullpen and said, what do I do?
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
So,
what an incredible hit rate, right?
That's it. Do your data search, build your database, start making calls. There you go.
Yeah. And I mean, I have to tell you this story real quick. I had a buddy, he's a real estate practitioner. He's an investor, very successful. And he came to me and he's like, man, I really want to buy self-storage properties between this location and here, but I just can't figure out how to find those properties. And I said, Brock, and if you're not, I know you're not listening, but Brock, here's what we're going to do. And I pulled up my screen and I pulled up GenSpark Super Agent. I put in the parameters and he watched it live, build out a database of all properties between X and Z. It went through, found all the websites, what they focused on, what kind of storage it was. And then it created an interactive map for him to be able to look at, click on, and see in a matter of 6 to 7 minutes. And I said, there is no way that anyone can come to me and say, I can't figure out how to build a list of properties, of owners, and a database. It is easier now. And if you don't want to do that, just go to Fiverr.com or Upwork and put in your parameters and get your list. Right. Yep. I mean, it's unbelievable the differences. I mean, when Corey Zelnick was on here, he was telling me, he's a New York City broker as well. Right. Corey was like, hey, back in the day, we had to walk up and down the streets and take notes to build our database. And then we get this once a week, a sheet would print out with this long legal list of properties. And that's what we got to know what was for sale and what was available for lease and all this stuff. And you couldn't take that list outside of the bullpen. It had to stay there. It was proprietary information, all this stuff. And I'm like, but now you can literally have an AI agent do the research and work for you, right? Which to me is an incredible opportunity. I love commercial real estate. I love commercial real estate brokerage. I love it all. I think it's changing rapidly, but I also think that the fundamentals are the same. Bob always says we're in the information and relationship business now, right? So
Yep.
if you can focus on those two things, you probably will be successful. Rod, I just want to say thank you. You've got an avid follower here for probably 6 to 7 years now. I'm a big promoter of your work. I love your books. It was a pleasure being able to speak with you today. Please do point people in the right direction so they can get on your email list. They can learn about the Massimo Group. Where do they head?
Yeah, Massimo, Massimo .coach is the quickest way to get in touch with us, learn about us, our programs, and join our newsletters and get some free resources.
Rod,
and our YouTube channel now, we're doing everything on YouTube now. We're blowing it away. I'm giving almost everything away on YouTube as well.
Fantastic. We appreciate everything that you do for the industry, the leadership, the vision, the continual adoption of new technologies and how to utilize those as practitioners. So we really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you guys are interested in Kansas City commercial real estate, please do head over to www.mwcreadvisors.com. This has been another episode of the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse. Thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate all of your questions. I do believe we answered them in one way or another here today. So thanks for being here and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.